All right, incoming spoilers for The Life of Chuck, but here's like basically my one sentence review. It's really good. Go watch it. Go in blind, and I think you'll have a really interesting, weird time. Okay, spoilers in three, two, one. What the heck did I just watch? Basically, I went in fully blind into this movie, and I had an incredible roller coaster of a time. And this movie is shown in reverse chronology, so I'm just gonna kind of like walk through the movie through that and kind of like talk about my thoughts. And so it starts with Act Three, basically in this kind of post-apocalyptic world that's kind of dying, and a bunch of natural disasters are happening, and the whole world loses connection to the internet, and basically everything is going crazy. People are quitting their jobs, people are dying, people are committing suicide, people are getting back with their exes, and it follows this middle school teacher, and he's just kind of coming to terms with the end of the world. And this like seems like maybe more of a classic Stephen King thing of like there's this sci-fi intrigue, and there's this kind of like horror element and like scariness. And like I remember when like the film opens and it's just like black screen, and then slowly it appears on the screen, Act Three, thanks Chuck. um and that, I don't know, like that is just like a such a foreboding, interesting way to start the movie. And like I know like that comes from the book and the source material, but I think it's like this super sobering sense of death and finality and like the end of something that I found really intriguing. And while that's going on, you also have this like almost mystery of like who is this like Charles Krantz guy that they're like saying thank you to. Like TV shows are being cut off, and advertisements are being interrupted with PSAs thanking this Charles Krantz guy for 39 years of service, and no one understands what it is, and no one even knows who this guy is. And that's like built up in a very interesting way that pays off later, while also like works to create tension and like sadness and like almost a weird vibe over the end of the world here. And this is like not, I think, supposedly a very in and of itself a scary thing, but one of the scariest things that I have like experienced in a theater is when Marty and Felicia are looking at the sky, and stars just begin to die and disappear. Like, oh my goodness, seeing the stars just vanish and die out and like the universe slowly come to an end. Like the sound design, the quick like zoops and silences. That was fantastic. It was engaging, it was enthralling. I was gripping the edge of my seat. This movie is like so thought provoking, and the way that it's told out of chronological order, and it's looking at the idea of an interpretation of self as it pertains to death. And that I think is super interesting. And thinking about like coming to terms with your mortality and like the fleeting nature of things, and like waiting when you know something bad is going to happen. And I think this first act really sets that up well. It's like a foreboding, like, what the heck happened and how do we get here and what does that mean? And so one of the most engaging first acts I've seen in a very long time. This movie has just like an incredibly large cast, because there are basically three different vignettes that we go through, and there's so many different characters, and none of them honestly like stay on the screen for super long. Like I know Tom Hiddleston is on all of the marketing and all of the posters, but he is not in this movie very much, like at all. And I think incredible credit to the direction and the editing to weave together all of these different storylines and all of these different shots, and also to bring out the emotions, the correct emotions from different characters and different actors who are playing the same character, weaving it all together to this like profound tapestry that like makes this non-linear, confusing film emotional and coherent and thought-provoking and interesting and also entertaining at the same time. The confusion level in the beginning 30 minutes of this movie for me, like it was super high, sky high. But I think at the end it like clicked into place, and it was something that I feel like was satisfying, and I was like, man, I am glad that like I sat through that and like worked through it, because like it unfolded in ways that like I would not have expected. Like the actors are good, but they're not the standouts, because I think this is definitely a testament to how the script and the editing and the direction just carries and brings together a cohesive product. And the second act is basically about a busking drummer who sets up and starts drumming at this street corner, and then Chuck, who's at this banking conference, kind of listens and overhears, and then he starts to dance. And then this other young woman named Janice, she just like got dumped by her boyfriend in a super surprise text, and then she joins Chuck and they dance together, and it's like a super cool street performance where the drumming and the two dancers are just like so intertwined and they're linked, and it's like super good. And like it is so hard to describe in words how amazing that scene was. I think first like it goes with, they actually got like a real busking drummer, and like you can tell by the way they shoot it that like this girl who was the actress, like she actually drummed and performed and did these things. And obviously the drumming is top tier and great and fun. And then the dancing, both Tom Hiddleston and Annalise Basso did a fantastic job with the dancing. And not just like the dancing of like, oh, hitting the movements and like looking like they're elite and talented and really good at this, but also just like showing the emotions on their face. Like Chuck is just like so filled with joy, and he's also a performer who really enjoys this and like lives for that kind of performance while also like enjoying the dancing itself. And then also Janice kind of like losing herself while she's in a very emotional time of just getting broken up. And that like joy of drumming and joy of dancing is just so contagious. And I think there are a lot of movies that try like that slice of life of like, oh, this is the beauty of life and the little things, but this is probably one of the best that I've seen, because it had me moving on my seat, and it had me like, when at the end, when everyone in the audience on screen started clapping, like I clapped too. I was like, oh my goodness, I was probably the greatest dance scene that I've ever seen. And this is a little bit later in the third act, but there's also another dance from Chuck when he was a little kid. I think the actor is Benjamin Pajak, and then Trinity Jolie Bliss. Like they two also dance like at like a high school dance kind of thing, and that one is also great. Like child actors, they display so much joy and ecstasy, and just release and pure fun and pure amazement when they dance. And I think I cannot praise the acting in the dance scenes enough. There's just like that level of smiles and owning it that sold the joy and sold the brilliance, and made it really feel like, oh, like this is like a core memory. This is like at the time of my life. I think like the last act is definitely the messiest for sure, because it has to like cover the most ground, and it's not like as sharp in its pitch, and it drags a little bit here and there. But basically, one of Chuck's teachers tells him about the meaning of the phrase "I contain multitudes," and the idea that like in your head you create a world based on the people that you meet and the people that you don't meet, and the assumptions that you have and the experiences that you have. And in every single person's head, there's a slightly different perspective of the world. And because we are not constantly communicating, there are so many things going on in our heads and our thoughts and our ideas and our desires and our joys and our likes and our dislikes and our memories that form worlds in our heads and how we see the world. And most of those worlds, no one else will ever know about them. And this teacher, she encourages Chuck to continue to fill out that world. As you live, continue to remember that you contain multitudes, and that inside of your head, you are forming a universe based on the life that you live. And that like connects to Chuck deciding that he wants to live the life that he has left to the fullest when he realizes that he's going to die at age 39, and that he wants to continue to build out this universe that he has experienced in his head. But also it like colors the first act, because we realize now the first act, which is technically act 3, is the I contain multitudes, the universe that is made within Chuck's mind. And I was talking to the friend that I watched this movie with, and he was saying that, oh, when like someone dies, everyone around them loses a part of themselves. Like when a father dies, the child loses part of an identity of a son because their father is no longer there, or the wife is no longer a wife and loses a part of an identity there. There's a part of their lives that they can no longer experience because that person is dead. But also on the other end, there is a world in that guy's head that died. There are plenty of ideas, intrusive thoughts, dreams, goals, questions that he never got to express that die out. And just like in the universe, as the stars are being destroyed and zapped out of existence, there's a whole world that no one else would have ever known that goes away. And we see that Marty and Felicia these are two people that actually existed in real life, but Chuck obviously never had too much interaction with them. And he's filling in their lives in his head in a different way than he would have known in reality. But also these alternate egos, these different perspectives of these people, the one that Chuck had of them, whether they're right or wrong, they also die. So the perception of someone else that a dead person has of you, like they're disappearing. And I think it's interesting to think about like what that means for us with the life that we still have to live and this life that we still get to live. And I also think lastly, like there is something about human nature that I think is drawn to the melancholy of waiting for something bad to happen or waiting for the finality to come. Because Chuck knows that he's going to die and he knows that it's going to be a sad end. But there's like a bitter sweetness in that. There's a sweetness in knowing that like, oh, it'll be over, but like it gives it more meaning and more value for the time that you do have left. And I think it's interesting because as a Christian, I believe that everyone is going to live for eternity and going to exist for an eternity. And like, depending on what you do in this life like determines how that eternity is spent. And like in my finite linear thinking brain right now, like I can't fully comprehend what like an eternity with Jesus is actually like. But I also like think that like maybe pushing back against some of the messages of the movie or like the ideas of the movie is like, I don't think finality is what gives things meaning. But like in a way I think it's like because like our human brains can only comprehend so much, and like an ending must exist. But like what I have known and seen and experienced from walking with Jesus for a little bit of my life is that God is bigger than we previously thought. And like the idea that like that sentence is always true. Like no matter how much we know about him and learn about him and see about him, God will always be bigger than we previously thought. And he is infinite and will like never reach the end. And so for like eternity, we could be experiencing new things and experiencing more of his grace and his goodness, and we'll never reach the end because that's how big and good he is. And so if there's beauty in the finality of something, how much more beauty will there be in the infinity of a good, perfect, holy God? And so I think that's like exciting because it's different, it's special, it's something that like defies all logic and understanding in our world. And so I appreciated this movie, The Life of Chuck, of like how it made me think about how I can approach my life, how I can approach people, but also how I can like cherish and get excited for the specialness of being with Jesus. So fully recommend, go watch it, it's dope.